Oh, bruvs. Seeing as I'm on sort of a local cemetery tour during my days off of work, and I visited Soop Cemetery today, which, according to the internet, is one of the most haunted cemeteries in Michigan, which, of course, is just psychological babble. But let's take a look at some of the supposed stories of Soop Cemetery, and then I'll get on to what the hell's going on here. Why is it flashing like this? Must be the ghost. Rumors about the ghostly residents of this cemetery have been around forever. It was named Pleasant View Cemetery for decades. I think it was actually Pleasantville, but not. Let's see. I don't really care. I'm not going to look. I think it was Pleasantville and not Pleasant View, but I could be wrong. But has now changed its name back to Soup Cemetery. It's located in Belleville, Michigan. Chris Bailey, director of Grimstone Inc., wrote on the Spirit Society Haunting Report. Soup Cemetery is one of the most misunderstood haunted cemeteries in Michigan. It is often associated with victim Jane Mixer, 23, of serial murderer John Collins being left on a grave in 1968. However, this did not occur at Soup. Jane, a law student at the University of Michigan, was left shot and strangled in a cemetery in Denton Township. I also went there today. Not a cemetery on Old Denton Road. This belief even further unravels when new information and a DNA match acting as a criminal people finder in November 2004 linked Jane's death to the murderer, Gary Earl Leiterman. Blah, blah, blah. Leiterman was convicted. However, the legend of Collins and the body resting at Soup continues among haunted location websites and ghost research groups in the area. The second common myth about Soup Cemetery is that Elizabeth Soop was a dark witch in life and now enjoys scaring visitors in her afterlife. Elizabeth Soop did practice some form of witchcraft. I mean, did she? However, her living ancestors who keep the family history have no information about her supposed witchcraft, as reported by family member Andrea from the now defunct GhostZoo.com. People also report that the tombstone with the two hands pointing down is Elizabeth's stone and a sign of her evil practice. However, there are two tombstones marked Elizabeth Soup in this cemetery. Neither has this image. The Elizabeth's grave in question is near the rear of the cemetery, next to the tombstone of Frederick. I think it's Frederick. What's up, Sancho? In addition, hands together in prayer generally mean devotion in tombstone symbolism. Hands pointing downward means God reaching down for them. Because of bad info posted on the internet years ago, Soup also gets confused with the haunted Butler Cemetery, which is more bad info because Butler Cemetery is not Butler Cemetery. It is Ganong Cemetery. But Butler, Ganong, is located in Westland. With all these false rumors and allegations, this does not mean Soup is not haunted. There are numerous reports of paranormal mists, apparitions, EVP, and thermal shifts for decades to warrant this as a good research spot. Emails sent into Mysterious Michigan over the years. Back in 2001, some friends and I used to frequent supposed haunted places in Wayne and Monroe counties. We had heard the stories of Elizabeth Soup and really wanted to go check it out. Naturally, we went at dark and it was about 10 p.m. We got to the cemetery, parked the car, and began our trek towards the back of the cemetery where Elizabeth is buried. During our hunt, when we were walking, apparently, the strangest thing happened. Three shadowy figures began moving towards us. Hello, Kelsey. What's up? The shadows were about 3 to 4 feet tall and moving quickly at us. We drove away and circled around a few more times, but we did not get out again. We tried to see if something else could have made the shadows, but there was literally no explanation. And these stories go on and on. Cemetery is haunted, and there's voices talking, and there's another website that claims that Soup Cemetery not only is haunted, but that the relatives of Elizabeth Soop, spelled Soop, um, confirmed that she was a witch. However, I did plenty of research several years ago. I think it says 5 years ago. Don't worry, that's not my real name, Henry. What does the grave of Elizabeth Soop have to do with the Eisenlord house in Detroit? I'll fill you in as inertia allows. Much of what I researched is blah blah blah. This entire several hour gleaning began with a simple search for Rawsonville after similar searches for Eloise, Catville, which was New Boston, and others failed to bring up anything. Up popped the brief snippet of Soup Cemetery being located in Rawsonville from the Northville Record from 1889. A nothing mention which conjures up the mysterious of the internet, who chase hobgoblins in the wind and whose flitting intellects necessitated me to start my own groups to get away from them. While I love the idea of haunted locations and believe that I have had so called paranormal experiences, I also think that they have more to do with psychological reactions to locations and not freewheeling entities known as ghosts. Anyhow, Elizabeth Soop was supposedly a witch, and this was my research from April 23rd, 2020. She is buried in Soup Cemetery in present day Belleville, and the location is said to be a paranormal hotspot in league with Ganong, which is a cemetery in Westland. Since I pay $150 a year for these newspaper archives, I no longer do. I get them free. I endeavor as much as possible to utilize and give out free information. If said articles say that Elizabeth Soop was a witch, then I'll report as much. From all indications from various sources, she was a Methodist church, not methamphetamine, Methodist church going farmer's wife, and later a co businesswoman with her husband Frederick and family. Fred either owned or at least operated several hotels. I don't know the hotel or restaurant business history of Detroit, but from the looks of the Eisenlord house in this photo, which was valued at $24,000 and called the Windsor Hotel at the time Fred was its proprietor, from the early 1890s until 1895, it wouldn't have been an insignificant investment for a former farmer. He had apparently run a dining hall at the corner of Washington Avenue and State Street previously. Elizabeth ran the Imperial Cafe with her daughter-in-law Catherine from its inception in 1897 until no later than 1899 when she died. It might please any devil seeker to know that she did pass away on Christmas Eve. So very witchy of her. If you want to know of a real life bewitching I can speak to it, blah, blah, blah. So, yeah, that's Elizabeth Soup's gravestone. I believe it's. Was she part of that family? I don't know. Regardless, there's the hotel she helped manage while she was supposedly a witch. And the burial ground at Rawsonville is called Soup Cemetery. Yes, yes, indeed. Then we go on to this one. As stated previously, if Elizabeth Soop was a witch, she practiced in her spare time. Her day job for many years likely consisted in aiding her husband and family in their many business enterprises, from the Hawkins House in Ypsilanti during the Civil War to his dining hall on Washington Avenue to the Cass Avenue Hotel venture, which he retired from in 1895. Mrs. Soop and her daughter-in-law launched the Imperial Cafe in the summer of 1897 at 214 Griswold Street. I couldn't find much on the enterprise, though there were several other imperial cafes in the area during this time, as well as before and after, all seemingly on Cass Avenue and at various addresses. Whether they were related or not is inconsequential, though it's doubtful that they were a franchise. I still haven't found any incidents of seances or black magic rituals by Mrs. Soup. Maybe she only became a witch after her death. And there you go. Last Saturday, Mrs. Catherine Soup and Elizabeth Soop attained a temporary injunction in the Wayne Circuit Court, restraining the Detroit Gas Company from removing the gas meter from 214 Griswold Street, where they had recently opened a restaurant. The company had threatened to take out the meter unless the two women settled the gas bill of $60, which had been run up by the Cass Avenue Hotel, formerly conducted by their husbands. The company applied to Judge Donovan for a modification of the injunction. He ordered that the meter should not be removed because of the old gas bill, but that it might be done if the women violated any of the company's reasonable rules and regulations. Maybe she put a spell on that judge. Let's see if I can get the other photo. Imperial Cafe, 214 Griswold Street. Proprietor, lunches served at all hours. Regular meals, 25 cents. Special rates by the week. And so this re-piqued my interest in the Elizabeth Soop chatter. Let me pull up this article I found in just one recent please click on, you fucking piece of shit. All right, pardon for my language. This article is from 1887 and involves the drowning of their daughter-in-law, the daughter-in-law of Mr. and Mrs. Soup, Elizabeth being the Mrs. Soup. The drowning of a young lady in Lake St. Clair, a secret marriage in Detroit with its tragic sequel, the awful ending of a yachting bridal tour. On Friday evening, it was known that a lady had lost her life by drowning on Lake St. Clair, but it was impossible to obtain full particulars of the tragedy. On Saturday evening, the husband of the lady arrived from Mount Clemens by the Grand Trunk Railroad and immediately left by the Great Western Road for his home in Chatham, Ontario, having with him the dead body of his wife. A reporter of the Free Press accompanied him to Windsor and learned from his own lips the whole of the sad and romantic story. What the heck's his name? Fio? Let me check and see. Fino Abraham Soup. Get back to this. God damn it. Let me just go to this story. Oh my God. Just take me back to the story. No, not found. You fucking piece of shit. All right, back to the story. All right, now it's saying it's gone. All right, back. Oh, the fuck! Why are you doing this to me? Please stop. Okay, just click that out. Get back to the soup story. This is why you don't go live with information. On Saturday evening, the husband of the lady arrived from Mount Clemens by the Grand Trunk Railroad and immediately left the Great Western Road for his home in Chatham, Ontario, Having with him the dead body of his wife, a reporter of the Free Press accompanied him to Windsor and learned from his own lips the whole of the sad and romantic story. Fino A. Soop, the bereaved husband, is 22 years of age and had been married scarcely 4 months. The history of his courtship and marriage with his wife seems almost like a novelist's tale. Mr. Soop is bookkeeper for his father, Frederick, which they don't mention his actual name, who is proprietor of the Ratley House, one of the largest hotels in Chatham. His parents are in very good circumstances and expected their son, whom he married, to make what is called a good match, as he seems to be a talented young man and of undoubted handsome appearance. However, he fell in love with Eleanor Powell, a beautiful and accomplished young English girl, who came lately with her parents to this country. The two families seem to have been on intimate terms, as Mrs. Powell's brother married a sister of Mr. Soop. But reverses came, and Miss Powell's parents both died, leaving the family in comparative poverty. Mr. Soop's parents then became bitterly opposed to his marriage with Miss Powell, and he was apparently forced to give her up. Miss Powell went to Dresden to live with relatives there, and Mr. Soop continued to work, seemingly contented in his father's hotel. But meantime, the young people were making preparations for a secret marriage. On the 30th of May last, Mr. Soop came from Chatham and Miss Powell from Dresden to Detroit. And they were, if she was so broke, how did she go to Dresden? And they were married at the Episcopal Rooms, 53 Woodward Avenue, with only two friends, only two friends, a lady and gentleman, as witness. So great was the dread of parental displeasure to keep the marriage a secret, and the first and only intimation the parents ever had of it was the following tragic telegram sent yesterday. Nellie is my wife. She is dead. Please make arrangements to meet me tonight at the depot. Mr. Soop visited his wife several times at Dresden. Maybe Dresden wasn't in Germany. Maybe it was somewhere else. And as he was, I don't know what the hell that says. He was in the habit annually of taking a summer cruise on the St. Clair Flats. He asked his bride to come with him this year and said it would be their wedding tour. She gladly assented, and he began to make arrangements for their trip. He built a new yacht. This guy's got some fucking talent. He built his own yacht. Well, his mother was supposedly a witch, so maybe she swallowed a yacht for him, which was finished and launched on Monday last. And on Tuesday, it arrived here in tow of the Steinhoff. On the same day, his young wife came from Dresden. Yeah, Dresden, obviously, must have been a local place to Detroit. And on Wednesday, husband and wife started on their fatal excursion. They reached the Clinton River that evening. They enjoyed themselves extremely, and Mr. Soop says they seemed to have almost too much happiness. All persons they became acquainted with did their best to make the trip agreeable. On Friday morning, about 7 o'clock, they bade goodbye to their host on shore and started out to continue their journey to the flats. Mr. Soop was teaching his wife how to manage the boat, and she was delighted with the novelty of the situation. She sat at the helm and steered the yacht while he reefed the mainsail and let out the jib, as the wind was blowing rather fresh. As he stood up, he saw a steam barge coming directly towards them from the Clinton River. Just then his wife said, "Oh, Finn, I'm afraid we'll run into that black log," meaning the buoy, which was near them. He told her what the black log was, directing her how to steer to avoid it. But little did he think, as he gave these instructions, that he had heard his wife utter her last words. In this world, looking up, he saw the barge almost directly on them. He says that that instant he remembered a friend of his who was run down in a boat at Chicago by a propeller and who clung to the boat and was lost under it. So he called his wife to his side and, clasping her hand, both awaited the moment of collision. One man stood at the bow of the barge and seemed horror stricken and did nothing but wave his hands. Just as the barge struck the yacht, Mr. Soup cried out, "Port your helm! Don't you see you'll run us down?" But it was no use. Everyone on board the barge seemed paralyzed, and the next instant the steamer crashed into the hopeless boat. I believe that says hopeless. I can't. Helpless boat. Hello, Brobs. Mr. Soup and his wife sprang into the water just as the barge struck and were whirled around and around by the eddies. He, being an expert swimmer, kept his wife up and shouted for help, but the imbeciles on the barge looked at him as if they did not know what to do. "It was an awful moment," said Mr. Soup to the reporter. "I will never forget it. I think I see yet the pale terror-stricken face of that old man who was looking down at us, but he never moved to help us." Mr. Soup encouraged his wife and told her not to speak, as she might get water in her mouth. She, like a brave little woman, caught hold of him lightly by the coat, leaving his arms free so as not to impede his swimming. "I often told her," said Mr. Soup, "that if we were ever thrown into the water, not to clasp me, or we would both drown together, and she never said a word, but did exactly as I had bidden her. And when I looked at her, she smiled to show she was not afraid." At last they got among the weeds, which entangled Mrs. Soup's dress, so that no progress could be made toward the buoy. Mr. Soup then instructed his wife to work hands and feet to keep herself afloat, while he would swim to the buoy and cut it loose and push it to her. She managed to keep afloat until he came to the buoy, and then a wave overwhelmed her, and she threw up her hands and sunk. The barge, meanwhile, had rounded to, and two men approached in a small boat and picked up the drowning man. The husband, frantic with grief, upbraided the stupid bargeman for not throwing something overboard to cling to. He was taken to the Star Island house and thence to Detroit on the Marine City. The body of Mrs. Soup was found Saturday morning at 8 o'clock by a party of 4 from Mount Clemens. She was about 20 feet from where she sunk, and her hands were full of weeds, showing that she had grasped them in sinking, which prevented her from rising again. It is thought that the passing of the Ada Allen dislodged the body. Mrs. Soup was 18 years old. "Little did I think," said Mr. Soup, "that our week's trip would end as it did." But so it did. And that's the end of Mrs. Soup. She died. And she was, if I can find, no, there she is, Nellie G. Powell Soup. She is buried in Maple Leaf Cemetery in Chatham, Ontario. And Pheno Abraham Soup, her husband, grieving husband, who tried to save her, I think he remarried. No, it doesn't show that he remarried. Let's see what his let's see. No, it says he was married. See what his death certificate says. This would be, he was a janitor at a public school. We sure this is the same guy, Pheno Soup? That's what it says. He was 70. Wonder if he ever married again. Lee Edge. Okay, so he did marry again. His second wife was Lee Edge. And right, so he did marry again, and he is buried in Hillside Cemetery in Belleville. But as you see, His parents were Frederick Soop and Elizabeth Jane Root Soop. She supposedly was a witch, which is total bullshit. Everything that I've read is that she was into her church, um, a Methodist church goer. And unless there was a different Mrs. Soop, which I don't think there was. There's Frederick Soop. He was a proprietor hotel man. Let's see what it says. Frederick Soop, a pioneer. Frederick Soop, a pioneer hotel man of Detroit, died yesterday morning at the home of his son, Fred J. Soop, 58 Scoville Place, where he had lived for years. He was 87 years old. Pleurisy was the direct cause of death. He became ill Thursday afternoon. The fatal attack was the first time he had been confined to his bed with illness in more than 25 years. Mr. Soop was born in Bethlehem, New York, and came to Michigan in 1841. He had been a reader of the Free Press as a child and was a constant reader of the paper. From his first issue all his life, the Soup settled at Belleville, Michigan, where the young men of the family were brought up as farmers. Frederick Soup went to Ypsilanti just before the outbreak of the Civil War, and during that struggle, he conducted the Hawkins House there. That was his first hotel venture. Later, he returned to the farm and then came to Detroit, where for many years he conducted the City Hotel on the present site of the Free Press office. The hotel barn was where the Lafayette Theater now stands. Mr. Soup left Detroit some 35 years ago and for a while was landlord of the Hotel Rutley in Chatham, Ontario. Later, he returned to this city and until 15 years ago conducted the Cass Hotel, now the Morgan, at Cass and Bagley Avenues. Mr. Soup is survived by one brother, David Soup, and one sister, Mrs. Kate Dalrymple of Belleville. There are 5 children. Pheno A. Soup of St. Louis, Missouri, so he moved there. He must have been living in St. Louis for a while. Fred J. Soup of this city. Frank C. Soup of Buffalo, New York. Mrs. W. W. Mitchell of Chatham, Ontario, and Mrs. A. J. Powell of Detroit. Funeral services will be held at the home, 58 Scoville Place, at 4 o'clock Sunday afternoon. Reverend C. W. Baldwin of Grand River Avenue Methodist Episcopal Church, of which the deceased was a member, conducting the obsequies. Burial will take place in Belleville, Michigan, which is where Soup Cemetery is, and right. So, for a witch's husband, this guy was very active in business. And let's see if I can find Elizabeth's. She died in 1899. Mr. Soup, at first I thought he was a brother. You're a brother. No, that's right. You're supposedly a 72-year-old woman, which is pretty funny, but obviously not true. News article. Back to the Soup family. The hobgoblins of the internet are fucking pathetic. Hey, she's a witch. There's the sad story of Pheno A. Soup. There's little Edson Soup, the youngest child of Mr. and Mrs. M.V. Soup, suffered a severe accident by getting his hand caught in the chain of George Soup's wheel, which he was cleaning. The little finger had to be removed at the first joint. Yeah, you're a sister, all right. Let me guess, you're a truck driver, too. There's the baby that died. I already put that on there. Mr. Frank Soup is not going to be behind the times. Let's see if we got some Um, More Soop information. It was a rather entertaining account of a wedding between Malcolm Soop and his wife, where the main entree was none other than soup. Herman Soop. What the hell does this mean? Um, Soup Cemetery. Mrs. Mary Z. Wyman at Cincinnati, Ohio, on February 14th of February, aged 47 years. The remains were brought to Belleville, and after the funeral at the Baptist Church, officiated Mrs. Bluntman leaves 113 2, blah, blah, blah. Just more articles about Soup Cemetery. Hey, I'm a Methodist and a witch. Elizabeth Jane Root Soop. Oh, I did. I did not post that. Residence, beloved wife of Frederick Soop. Funeral services at Belleville. Added by Rachel Osiria on December 16th, 2023. There's her death certificate. Oh. What do we got here? It's just her tombstone, which is in decay and laying on the ground. But so what? Pheno Abraham, which is who we just discussed. Probably can find her. Why aren't you fucking loading, bro? Broski. Come on, broski. It begins to look suspicious. It is said Herman Soop was around pricing cook stoves and other utensils at the hardware the other evening, pardon. Whatever the fuck that means. Let's see who this is about. Somebody buried at the Soop Cemetery. What's so unbelievable about 72? I'm not that old. And you don't sound too far behind, respectfully. You are not 72. Stop. Hey, I'm 72 and I'm up online 24 hours a day. Don't give me that bullshit. Sunday, December 4th, 1887, at Chicago, Illinois, of compound fracture of the skull caused by a fall down a flight of stairs. John H. Vining, age 70 years and 6 days. I saw his stone tonight at Soup Cemetery. Yeah, I broke my skull. Download to your computer. Next. Image file. Thank you. Right. Post your videos. Oh, Will Soop got the thumb and little finger of his left hand sawed on the circular saw. That hurts. I should know. Soon is not soup. Mrs. Herman Soop visited the parents. A good many from here attended the decoration exercise at Ypsilanti. There were also appropriate exercises at the Soop Cemetery. Interesting. Mr. Herman Soop, bridge carpenter for the Wabash Railroad Company, stayed at Willis last Monday night. Soop Cemetery, thoroughbred Poland something or other. Is that from 1890? No, let's see what this is. Right. Hey, I've been watching Jack Van Impe my whole life. Sure you have. Yes, you're from Peoria, Illinois. But you watch Jack Van Impe religiously. Know all about him. I don't think I'm going to find soup in here. No soup. Right. Everything's an accident. Frank Soop and his wife celebrated 15th anniversary of their marriage. Mate Soop. Soop Cemetery. 1887. Louis Ruthruff. Cherry Hill was held at the funeral Monday at the M.E. Methodist Church was very largely attended. Procession to the Soop Cemetery consisted of over 50 teams. Who is this guy? He was a Freemason. Wilkinson Dean, the oldest master mason. Oldest and most esteemed citizens, Daddy, as he was familiarly called, for miles around, was almost a centenarian, he being 95 years and 9 months old. He was born at Blooming Grove, Orange County, New York. December 3rd, 1791. When he arrived at his majority, the War of 1812 was in progress. He entered the ranks and came out a battle-scarred veteran. His life had been a very eventful one. He had received injuries enough in war and in times of peace to have killed half a dozen ordinary men. He came to Michigan in the fall of 1832 and settled at Ypsilanti. Here he worked at his trade, shoemaking, off and on for 10 years or more. He then came to Belleville, and it was while working in a gravel pit that he had both legs and hip crushed from having a stump fall on him from the bank. Poor fellow. See what other travails. Almost got killed in war by wounds that would have killed 100 men. Had a stump fall on him. See what else we got here. His life has indeed been a remarkable one, for in the course of his career, he has had his arms and legs broken or crushed no less than 3 different times. He has been a lifelong Democrat and a firm supporter of that party's principles. He was at the polls at the last election and voted the old ticket. He was beyond all doubt the oldest master mason in Michigan, if not in the whole United States. He had been a member of the Masonic fraternity upwards of 75 years. About 10 years before his death, he fell and broke his hip, thus necessitating the use of crutches. Otherwise, he has up to the present time enjoyed very good health. He retained all of his faculties up to the time of his death. He was a good conversationalist and delighted to talk with his numerous acquaintances upon the general topics of the day. He could read common print without the aid of spectacles, having received his second sight several years ago. The hell does that mean? Received his second sight several years ago. He was in Belleville about 2 weeks ago and did quite a little trading. He was taken sick a week ago with the dysentery. There was not a moment during his last sickness that he suffered pain. Life left his body like the snuffing out of a candle. Although he had many hairbreadth escapes through life, yet he was saved by divine providence to die a more peaceful death. The funeral Monday at the M.E. Church was very largely attended. All right, so what's this guy's name? What's his name again? Not Luna Cooper. Come on, let's get to it. Wilkinson Dean. Soop, Pleasantville Cemetery. He had cataracts removed in the 1880s. Come on now. He had LASIK surgery in 1870. (1887), I got my second cataract surgery done. Wilkinson Dean. Is he in there? Hattie Dean, Lulu Dean, Wilkinson Dean Sr. There he is. He wasn't 97, he was 94, sir. Minna. Old bones, too. 3 photos. What? The fuck is this even about? They're saying they didn't even know where he was. What kind of bullshit is this? Wilkinson Dean died at Belleville at the age of 97. He was the oldest master mason in the state, a soldier in the War of 1812, and for years his whereabouts have been unknown to his aged sister and his friends, who searched in vain for him. They advertised and offered rewards for his whereabouts without avail. The town of Belleville is only a few miles from Detroit, and this fact makes it exceedingly strange that the inquiries have been unsuccessful. The announcement of his whereabouts was first made in his death notice. Yeah, he didn't want to come back and see you, obviously. Belleville is only about 40 miles outside of Detroit. All right, back to the newspaper. Door. That's not soup. We want soup. We want soup. Frank Soup. Ella Soup, D Soup. What's he got to say? He's got something to say about life. We'll come back to you. Say that's about it. See what Mr. Soup has to say. D Soup. Lost on Saturday, April 4th, on Main Street, a pocketbook. The finder will be liberally rewarded by returning the same to the owner or by leaving it at this office. D Soup. Online resources. Detroit News. What year did Elizabeth Soop die? 1899. Come on, fucker. Soup. Hey, my girlfriend's 114. She's got one leg and runs marathons. There's Mrs. Elizabeth Soop. There's the soup. But that does not. And we'll go 1899. See if there's a listing for that. 1899 soup. Detroit News. Elizabeth Soop. Hotel woman dead. Supreme Court. The judge of the Supreme Court. All right. Not funny. Hotel woman dead. Supposedly a witch. Hotel woman dead. Mrs. Elizabeth J. Soop, wife of Frederick Soop, For many years, identified with some of the hotels of Detroit, died yesterday at her home, 1021 Hudson Avenue, aged 73 years. Years ago, there stood on the lower end of Lafayette Avenue the Stoddard House, which became the Soup House and later still the City Hotel. At a more recent date, Mrs. Soup was connected with the Eisenlord House, which afterwards was changed to the Cass Avenue Hotel. The remains will be interred at Belleville. Weren't you just talking about wet vaginas the other day? Hotel room. I take the search page. Soup. Remove it. Egg on. Control. Is that the one? That is the one. Man, you were the one talking about the other day. Not I. Whoa, don't save it, motherfucker. Alright, so that's that for the Soup family. Elizabeth Soop. Elizabeth Soop. I know I have these files somewhere, I just don't know where they're at. Belleville. She was a witch. Let's see what this stupid page says. What was it? In Belleville, there's a cemetery, Soup Cemetery, where legend states that a woman who practiced witchcraft is buried there and spends her afterlife scaring the bejeebus out of visitors. The woman's name was Elizabeth Soop, a member of the family from whom the cemetery got its name. Whether you believe in ghosts or not, the fact remains that this woman did practice dark witchcraft during her lifetime, although it's disputed by current relatives. Yeah, she was a Methodist. Church going woman. What the hell's this shit? Some woman's boobs here. Where the fuck? Current relatives. Elizabeth's tombstone is towards the back end of the graveyard, next to that of her husband. Frederick, see the stones in the photo gallery below. fuck is this? Get off the page. Curious visitors who attempt an investigation late at night claim to have been followed by human, shadowy figures that are 3 to 4 feet tall. To read some creepy stuff from people, blah blah blah. Late night visitors to Soop Cemetery say these are actual spirit images they captured on camera. Hey, treat it with respect, but go there in the middle of the fucking night. Soop Cemetery. Taken on a Kodak disposable camera, 400 speed film. Where the fuck are these photos? I don't see shit. I see a girl's butt. Fuck is this photo? Yeah, one looks like it's missing. Oh my god, look at that. That's crazy. It's definitely Elizabeth Soop. Why can't I see this shit? What is this bullshit? Get off my page. Come on. Let me click off this fucker. Thank you. Get off the page, Ed. There it goes, finally. Nope, don't click. Don't recall any of this, so thankfully I don't remember half the stuff I post here. Look. There she is. What does that say? Ecto and big orb on a tree. An ecto face. Jesus Christ. That's the evidence. So what's your pretend location here? Detroit? Chooch. Yep, that's not what we're dealing for. Come on, Elizabeth Soop, go back to it. Probably help if I didn't have 18 windows open. Oh! Yeah. Why can't you just go back to the fucking thing? I got bogged down this computed already. 2 children survive. This is Mr. Vining. John Vining. Refined search. Vining. There he is, John Vining. Had a great life until he got his fractured skull in Chicago. Chicago. How many times you gonna fucking honk that truck, dude? That must be smoking weed. He forgets he honks it 50 times a night. All right, John Vining. Highlighting off. Cut clip. Download the computer door. We want image file. Ypsilanti commercial, February 1887 or December 1887. Motherfucker. Control. Copy. December 9th. John Vining. Add photo. Select photo. Other. Caption. Ypsilanti commercial, December 9th, 1887. Done. No, he's got an obit. Compound fracture of the skull caused by a fall down a flight of stairs. Right. Dude, you've been on there at 4 a.m. or 3 a.m. Hey, how's the Jack Van Impe going? Just stop. Just stop. I'm so tired. I haven't slept for days. Maybe it's a fucking phantoms at the side of your bed waking you up. Let me guess, she dated Charles Bukowski too. Alan Nolan Sawmill, Will Soop. Soup. Good thing that I blocked it because it shows my fucking name on there again. Very true. I was up to 5 a.m. this morning. I know. It's bullshit. William Henry Soop. I wonder if that was him. Will Soop. Will Soop suffice? I doubt it. This was 1887. Why does everything happen in 1887? Shit, Soop family. Oh, shit. It just doesn't add up. Willie Soop. Can't read it because it's too fucking small. Not even gonna attempt to read that bullshit. That's when I got my first cataract surgery. I'll look up second sight because I believe it means something different. This motherfucker. Matilda Frayne. Effie Frayne. Why do I know that name? Hey, Henry Miller commenced teaching school last Monday morning. Willow Run. Alright, I gotta look up that. Grand Army of the Republic marched from Camp McQuaid to the Soop Cemetery. Where the hell's Camp McQuaid? This guy's got some fucking stamina. What the hell's Camp McQuaid? Camp McQuaid. Santa Cruz County. This can't be fucking. There's no specific Camp McQuaid in Ypsilanti. However, Eastside summer camps operated. Shut up. AI stupid. That's how much I believe your story. Hey, I just happened to watch Jack Van Impe from Los Angeles while I was dating Charles Bukowski. That's the paper I want to look up. Plymouth Mail. Plymouth Mail Archives. Soup. George Soup. See if they have 1899. Oh, it goes to 3 fucking different. Let's see, 1899. Nope, nothing. All right, well, she'll look without that. But Elizabeth Soop. Nothing. Mrs. Soop. What's his name? Frederick Soop. Nothing. Elizabeth Soop. Belleville, Michigan. More. Where the fuck did I find those instances? The Michigan alumnus. It's probably where I found it. Elizabeth Vandernord. No. Jesus Christ, look at this. What the fuck? Ypsilanti Ghosts and Legends. The Witch of Union, Udell Cemetery. The Michigan Bell. These terms are so old-fashioned. People today haven't a clue what they mean. Second sight and tune and the like. Second sight is actually ESP, so I don't know what you're talking about. It's not a sixth sense, it's ESP. Frederick Soop. I'm going to online resources. Frederick Soop. Wonder if they show up in the Ann Arbor News. Frederick Soop. Frederick Soop. Should just search for soup. It's much easier. Nothing. Just search for soup. Oldest first. Oldest. $1923. Ain't going to help. Burt Soup. This is not going to help. Haiti Trust. Newspaper periodicals. We'll go to Detroit Free Press because I know that's where I got most of this info originally. Frederick Soop. Frederick Soop. Frederick Soop, 1911. Dining Hall of Frederick Soop. Veteran hotel keepers dead. This paper's impossible to search. Going to the news. Holy shit. Frederick Soop. Didn't even fucking do it. Frederick Soop, motherfucker. Elizabeth Soop, a civil rights suit. 1890. Open link. One of the most amusing of recent cases was tried today before Judge Brevoort. William H. Haynes, colored, sues Frederick Soop of the Washington dining rooms for $5,000 damages for refusing him dinner on the 13th of April, 1888. This is the second trial of the same action. The jury in the first trial having disagreed. The plaintiff, a shabby-looking colored man of lugubrious appearance, took the stand and bore out his counsel's opening statement. On cross-examination, however, he utterly broke down as to his antecedents. He said he left Demerara, his native place, 12 years ago and went to Halifax. He got hopelessly muddled in endeavoring to reconcile this testimony with his previous statements that he had left Halifax in 1875, 3 years before. He claims to have left Demerara when fired out of the Washington. He told them that he had dined with Sir Leonard Kelly and others, and that he was a graduate of the Detroit Medical College, and that they ought to feel highly honored by his presence. The court was continually convulsed with laughter at the witness's expense. He confessed that he had been in prison for costs of a suit brought against him by a home agent, and that he had suffered a judgment in Detroit ordering the return of property obtained by fraud from an old lady named French. Dr. S.W. Barkwell, plaintiff's only witness, said that he was on his way to Canada to buy clothes. This was afterwards qualified into having his clothes mended there. A sort of triangular duel then took place between the witnesses. Judge Brevoort and D. Augustus Straker, one of the witnesses for the defendant, made a ridiculous exhibition, claiming to be a commission agent for boots and shoes, and a philosopher into the bargain. At this point, an exciting scene took place. Professor Straker said, "As I anticipate the result, I may as well take all my exceptions." Judge Brevoort, "I don't understand that remark, and I won't have such things said in my court." Mr. Straker, "Your Honor may commit me for contempt of court if you like. I meant nothing personal to you. I am here to defend my client and intend to do my duty." The incident then terminated and the court adjourned till 2 p.m. Oh, no, what happened? The fuck happened? Search page. Remove all bullshit. All right, clip this. Won't you go up, fucker? Yes, you will go up.